In the last episode, you heard from Kareem El-Gendi, CEO of eight-figure fashion brand Veiled, who shared how they've optimized their analytics for executive growth. Now, today on episode number 48, get ready. I'm very excited for this conversation. We've got Lisa Roser, who's the founder of FiftyFlowers, a multi-million dollar and leading online floral retailer that delivers farm fresh flowers across the USA. And today we'll be talking about a very interesting topic, which is how to have the right people in the right seats at the right time as the brand is reaching nine figures. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of SplitBase. This is Minds of Ecommerce. Now, this episode is brought to you by SplitBase. At SplitBase, we help leading eight and nine figure brands such as Dr Squatch, Hyperice, Amica grow through customer focused conversion optimization programs. Our programs pinpoints exactly where your store is losing money most, and then, well, we help you fix it. The result, you get increased conversions, higher AOV, and of course, well, more money, which in returns allows you to scale advertising profitably. Now, we've been at it for over a decade and can help you manage CRO from A to Z. That means customer research, conversion design, strategy, copywriting, and even development. We'll focus on growing your e-commerce sales while you get to focus on what you do best. So go to splitbase.com today to request your free proposal and learn how we can help you get the most out of your marketing spend. All right, Lisa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here and share.
Yes, well, this podcast is all about going deep. It's about dissecting one key growth strategy so our listeners can get the most value right away. Now, I just want to give some context to people listening. I'm sure many of them have heard of FiftyFlowers. You've been around for a while and you've reached some pretty significant milestones. Can you just share with us to give context for people who may not be familiar with the brand, how long you've been running it, and also what are some of those milestones you've reached?
Absolutely. 22 years ago, FiftyFlowers pioneered the online wedding floral community, transforming the way couples shop today. And since then, we've delivered over 1 million flowers to weddings across the United
Wow.
States. Empowering. Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think that this little girl from Texas had this dream and the spark has created such an impactful, transformative, you know,
Amazing.
movement. And, our mission at FiftyFlowers is to create beautiful floral experiences accessible to everyone, from DIY brides to luxury floral event designers, while supporting sustainable fresh flower farms worldwide.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but right now you're on the cusp of reaching the nine-figure mark. That's correct, right?
Yeah, we
Amazing. So
are.
first, congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
It's been a long journey, longer than what I would have ever expected it to be.
I am sure. And now let's dive into the meat, right? Obviously, right people, right time, in the right seats, incredibly critical when it comes to growing a brand from 0 to 7 figures and obviously from 7 to 8 and nine and 8 to 9, right? Let's
Yeah.
maybe focus on the two later stages, as I know our audiences often already have million-dollar businesses plus. So let's talk about those key moments. You're building a brand, right? You're going from 8 to 9 figures. Are there phases? Are there key moments where you felt like you really had to revise, especially when it comes to like growth and marketing and really the people that are powering the growth of the company? When were those moments, or what would happen in the company? What would have to happen for you to say, I need to revise how the team is structured, if I have the right people in the right seats, and so on?
Yeah. So one of my favorite sayings from Jim Collins in Good to Great is right people, right seats. And it is one of the most crucial pain points that we have been through the growth. We just had our 5 year, all of us did, 5 year COVID shutdown, which was
Mm,
it really was a very interesting time, especially when we sell flowers for events and
yep, definitely.
And, it was a good time to take a step back and do a lot of evaluations of our team. And do we have the right people in the right seats? We didn't have a choice. We had to furlough, and we had to, and then we could step back and say, is this the right person to bring back on? And that's where we had to we took the heart out and put the brain in. And we adopted to EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System,
Yes.
which is
Great
a
system.
brilliant system. And it really has allowed us to hold people accountable and use their GWC, which is get it, want it, and can do it, to see if we did have the right people on, in the certain seats. And, it's quite transformative when you have the wrong person in your organization and they're driving your growth and they're held back by fear. They're held back because they don't get it, but they want it and they can do it.
Mm.
It can paralyze not just you, but it can also be a cancer in your environment.
So what's your process? I think one easy trap to fall into, right, is you have the right person, but the wrong seat. And I think the trap to fall into is that, maybe the brand decides, oh, that person is not the right fit. And then, lets that person go when maybe they would have thrived in another role. Right. So instead of doing that analysis, it was done maybe a little faster. So how do you detect? Do you have a process for understanding, hey, this person, maybe they're not doing great in this role, but we want to keep them? How do you separate those two things? Because sometimes it seems obvious, but then when you actually look at brands making hiring and firing decisions, and I don't think it's that obvious at the end of the day.
No, and I think a lot of it goes down to your day to day. We have we have a very set brand company culture. And one of our, something that's really important to me that I take dear and near is what Brene Brown says, clear as kind, unclear as unkind. So
Hmm.
we do a lot of heavy lifting. First off, to get everybody needs a job. And I am very adamant is I want you to come to work every day. I don't want you because you need to show up and get your paycheck.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. Everyone works on a team. We do a lot of rigorous onboarding as well as evaluations. Every week, you're going to be evaluated your first 4 weeks on our team with our company. It's based on, our company core values. And, if you don't hit a 4 in all of them and you don't pass the test, we're going to nip it in the bud right then and there.
Hmm.
Because, once again, you just plant the wrong seed, it can go from there. And, one of my favorite stories to talk about is, and I am going to go here. Okay. Customer care is very important to us. I want you to have one of the best experiences with flowers, not because I want you to buy from FiftyFlowers again, because hopefully you only get married once. And but what is important to me is that we're supporting you along the way. So
Right.
my customer care team is really near and dear to my heart. And we had this one, we're based out of Quito with that team. And her English was so bad. I mean,
Hmm.
how she made it on. This is before we were doing heavy lifting. And
Hmm.
we sat down. I flew down to Quito and I was going to have a heart to heart with her. And, she started and she said, okay, I have to tell you, I need to fuck us more.
Hmm.
And that's where now we're like, we all need to fuck us more,
Yeah.
we have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. When you focus, that's where your energy is going to grow as well.
Yeah.
And by the way, with this one gal, we moved her from, our customer care into our procurement area, and she thrived. So there
I
is
love
a
it.
way that you can pivot because if they get it, they want it, and they can do it. They just can't do what you hired them for. Because,
Hmm.
you know, when you interview somebody, it's like you're dating them.
Hmm.
And you just never know who you're gonna get.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm curious because I know there's a lot of marketers listening to
Mhm.
this conversation, to this podcast. How has your marketing team evolved? Because we're talking about phases, we're talking about different stages of growth. Now, you've grown a lot in the past couple of years. So, how has it evolved even in the past couple of years?
Yeah, what we have learned in marketing is people buy from a founder, not just a
Mm,
brand. And being the founder behind the brand and seeing that active, which I am. I mean, I'm extremely passionate.
yeah.
Every time I talk with anybody, they're like, you've been doing this for 25 years and you're still that passionate. And it's because I truly believe and love flowers and the joy that it brings
Mm,
to people's lives. And, one thing that I've learned is you can't just siphon and look at just marketing.
mm,
It's more than just marketing. Marketing should touch and you should understand every single process in your business and speak to the client. Understand your client so hyper focused. I mean, we're
mm,
constantly surveying, we're constantly asking. Our customer contact is insane. The amount of, we started text messaging 12 years ago. Now everyone's
right.
text messaging, right? But I would love and I challenge somebody who wants to do a study on how insane our customer, like we have three phases of a customer. It's a pre-buy, it's once you've bought, and it's post-delivery. And
Mm,
actually there's a fourth like caveat in there if we have a substitution because we're dealing with a perishable product. And we are talking to our clients every single way along the way.
So this is so interesting. Can you tell us a bit more about that? What type of communication? It sounds like obviously, because I don't want people to hear this and think, oh, they're just sending a bunch of emails and messages all the time, right? So it has to be very intentional touch points and it has to bring value. So how are you doing that?
Well, which phase? I'm going to start with the first phase.
Yep.
First off, PPC. We spend a lot of money on PPC, and it's the same person, that you're on your mobile phone, then you're commuting to work, then you're sitting at work and you're bored and you're on your work computer, then you go to your mom's afterwards, you're at your friends,
Mm,
you're constantly on. So
yeah.
we know, and we still have yet to find the right platform that can help us with that. But we know that you're hitting our website and all these other different funnels that we're trying to help you.
Yeah.
Call, chat, text, email, SMS, outgoing SMS. We're using it all to be engaged with you. And we are highly engaged. The amount of, through
Mm,
our review platform, the amount of questions that we get in about our products, and we're constantly
mm,
tweaking our product pages. So once we convert you, then we're going to send you an email and we're going to say, hey, you know what? You ordered these flowers for the wrong days, and let us update that. And, if something happens to where, say, a hailstorm hits our peony crop and we have to substitute your flower, we're reaching out to you. And,
mm,
we're texting you, we're calling you, we're emailing you. We're really trying to get in front of you because it's that important, your special
right.
day. And then if something all along happens that, there's a tornado or an ice storm in Texas, which I don't know if all of y'all remember that day, where all of a sudden we can't get your flowers to you,
Yeah.
we're in touch with you then. Now, one of the most key learnings that we've learned this past year that we've implemented is our flowers don't show up the way that a florist delivers them to you. We've known that
Mm,
all, but now what we're doing is 2 days before your flowers come, we're text messaging you going, hey, your roses are going to come bunched where you only see 12 on top. You're not going to see the 13 that are nestled below.
expectation management.
Expectation management. There you go, Raphael. There you go.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think this is great. I mean, what you're saying about understanding your customer and then using that as a foundation for marketing, that's what I've been talking about for the past decade. So I'm definitely aligned with what you're saying here. I think it's the only way to market, right? Marketing, just for the sake of marketing, ends up being trash. And we live in a world full of noise. And I think the only way to market and even build websites and adapt your messaging is by, addressing your customer, understanding them, and using that as the foundation. Now, tell us more about what happens later. So your customer sees their flowers or their wedding's done now. Do you send questions? Do you send what type of touch points are you going to send in order to keep people engaged and to keep the communication valuable at the end of the day?
Well, we've for 15 years, we've run a Win Your Wedding Flowers, and we've switched that to Share Your Flair because we're doing way more than just wedding flowers to where we re-engage
Mm,
and we're
right.
able to, user generated content and be able to market through that. So we're in constant contact because we want to see what you did. There's nothing more
Yeah.
joyful in our every Wednesday we come together and we have a company meeting and it's 65 people. We're on 5 different continents, different languages, different cultures, and we all come in and we celebrate those stories. So it's not just, when I look at our team and I look at the brand and I look at how am I going to really market and build this, it's not just an external, it's also an internal way of promoting it. I love to get it back to all of my vendors. We work with 350 farms worldwide, and
Wow.
I look for them to see what our clients are doing with their flowers. And that it will get all the way from, let's just say, Minneapolis, Minnesota, down to Wajabamba, Ecuador, to the packer who packed that baby
Mm,
so they can see the joy that they're creating. That's how you market and you build. And you
I
can
love
spend
it.
where we can, sometimes we'll get a video back and we'll send it to the bride. So we like to stay in constant contact and we ask for reviews.
Yep.
We don't have the best review platform right now and we're working on that. It's cantankerous. Reviews on Shopify are hard to get with pictures for sure. So we're in
And,
constant.
and I'm sure it's a key part of the experience, but because you're providing a visual experience at the end of the day.
We're helping you create memories. In fact, one of my favorite
Yeah.
stories I love to tell is, when you get married, it's the most joyous time. And,
Mm,
that's celebrating your love. You have people there that are your witness. 10 years after your wedding, you're going to go to grab your keys, walking out the door, and there's your wedding portrait. And you're going to have one of those days to where like the toilet seat was left up, up, or, the toothpaste cap wasn't put on and you're frustrated. You're going to look down and you're going to see those wedding flowers and the joy and the love, the smiles on your face. That's how important your wedding flowers are.
mm, that's
They'll
true.
carry out for the rest of your life.
We've been talking to Lisa Roser, who's founder of 50 Flowers. Now, Lisa, I know you've got a book coming up. You also have a lot of things to share. You frequently give talks. So if people want to learn more about you, where do they go if they want to learn about 50 Flowers as well? Where should they go? What should they do?
Definitely. Well, I can be found on LinkedIn, Lisa Roser, and also Instagram. You can follow me around the world. In fact, I'll be in Quito next week and then Costa Rica walking farms and doing interviews, final interviews for my one book. And 50 Flowers is spelled out FiftyFlowers.com. And you can find us on all the platforms. We're really active on Instagram, Facebook, you name it, TikTok. Yeah, we started TikTok. It's kind of fun.
I love it. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show and have an amazing day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share.